to our May plant board meeting. In reference to the summer driving season and also to our interest in putting recharge stations, the last few weeks I took 25 days and I drove my fully electric car to Minnesota. So I drove for 3,250 miles and my extension cord is only 20 feet. But what I did was I was evaluating recharge locations. I recharged at 22 different charge sites, and 5 of those were municipal cities, municipal charge stations in Minnesota and Iowa. And they worked. It was great. You were able to find the location I used 3 different apps, PlugShare, ChargePoint, and Tesla. And they were very useful, especially in more rural areas where there is no Tesla super recharge long distance type charger. And I think the concept that we're working toward of having recharge locations in downtown areas or community event areas makes a lot of sense, because especially when you're traveling, you're thinking about, am I going to have enough charge to get to the next location in a timely way? And you have an opportunity to visit shops or hiking trails right in that area and get something else done at the same time. So it's valuable. I also recharged at a couple of universities, 3 commercial sites, and 4 state parks. And the state parks, of course, for camping, people with recreational vehicles, they have recharging or electric ports, but these were actually parks that had places for day use. So you could be there, hike the trails, visit the gift shop, and be recharging your car when you're a long ways away from the interstate system where there would be easy access. And I do believe that electric cars are feasible and something that we want to seriously be part of for the future. So I should mention I hope everyone voted, and if you haven't, you can leave now, and I think the polls are still open until at least 6, if not later. And that's important, and if you don't vote, you can't complain. So it's an incentive there. So to go ahead with the meeting, I'm Anna Marie Pavlik-Rosen, Chair of the Frankfort Plant Board. To my right, Walt Baldwin, Vice Chair. Our Secretary-Treasurer, Don Hale. Member Steve Mason. Jeff Bradshaw hasn't made it yet, but we hope he will. And James Liebman, our attorney for the board. So our first item is to approve the meeting minutes from April 16th board meeting. And do we have a motion to approve those? Has everyone had a chance to take a look at them?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from our April meeting, April 16th.
And a second? Second. Okay, Steve seconded. All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Okay, motion passed. Our second item, approve financials for the month ending April 30th. I guess first we have to review them with David Denton.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to turn to page 15 if we could, and we'll start there with the statement of net position. Frankfort Plant Board has a fiscal year that begins on July 1 and ends on June 30th. So we are looking at financial statements for the period ending April 30th, 2019. So statement of net position on page 15. Total assets, line 65, of just over $180.8 million. You can see year over year, our total assets are up 4.6%. That is a good sign. 64% of our total assets are wrapped up in our property, plant, and equipment, as this is a heavily capitally intensive industry. Liabilities, line 130, of just over $94.3 million as of April 30th, up 10.8%. And it's noted that increase in liabilities is totally for items outside of our control related to the Kentucky retirement system, our unfunded liability portion of that retirement system. If you take our assets minus our liabilities, you'll have what's remaining as our net position, or what some for-profits would call equity. Total net position as of April 30th, just over $86.5 million. Of that amount, $77 million is invested in capital assets, less the associated debt. The remaining additional 3.7 is restricted for debt retirement and also for loan covenants. And then our remaining unrestricted portion, just over $5.7 million, wraps up the total net position, bringing our total liabilities and net position to equal our assets at $180.8 million. There's nothing really major to point out or anything different from last month. If there are no questions about the net position statement, I'd like to turn over to page 16 and look at our cash and investments as of April 30th. I'm just going to go straight to the bottom lines of each category. On line 80, restricted and unrestricted cash as of April 30th is just under $23.3 million. And our restricted investments and unrestricted investments that we have invested in certificates of deposit, line 135, just over $14.5 million as of April 30th. I'd like to look over on page 17, just a moment to show our bonds, leases, and notes payable as of April 30th. You can see we started out the year, July 1 of 18, at just under $42 million. For the period through 10 months, we've paid a little over $4.2 million, which is a 10% reduction in debt for this current fiscal year, bringing our total debt as of April 30th to just over $37.7 million. The last item I'd like to cover, just a little summary of where we are as far as our financial performance through 10 months. On page 19 is our statement of revenue, expense, and change in the net position for the company. Looking at total revenue, you can see on line 20, looking at the third column year to date, just over $85 million for the period, very much in line with a year ago. Our operating expenses and our general and admin expenses are down year over year and for budget. And I also would like to point out that our other revenue on line 350 is much better than expected for this year to budget to actual, bring our net contribution on line 355 of just under $9.5 million for the period. We have a lot of other good information as we provide each month with our summary of all of our bank balances and also check registers on our 2 most active checking accounts for your review. I'll be glad to answer any questions, but that's where we sit as of April 30th.
Okay. David, I had one question. You said line 350 was better than you expected?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you?
350 is our other revenue. We break our revenue into 2 different types. Our operating revenue, which you would think of revenue from our electric, water, and telecom services. All other revenue is a bunch of assorted different types of revenue that we receive for different types: fees, charges, interest, gain or loss on sales of assets, things like that. One of the biggest things you'll notice on line 335. Interest rates have increased during this fiscal year, so we have reset and put additional monies into certificate of deposits at those higher rates. So we're up $200,000 in interest income compared to where we had budgeted to be. So that along with our capital contributions on line 285 are driving most of that.
Thank you. If there are no other questions, do we have a motion to accept the financials?
So moved.
And a second? Okay. Steve seconded again. All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Thank you. So motion passed. Informational public comments. Do we have anyone from the public who wants to make a comment? Okay. John Sauer, our commissioner, city commissioner.
Madam Chairman, I'm pleased to be here today, and it's funny you should mention charging stations, which I too have an interest in. I first mentioned that last spring in the primary election cycle, and I'll tell you where it came from. It came from a little city in Florida, Defuniak Springs. My wife and I used to have a small house there a few years ago, meaning 3 or 4 years ago. And it's a population, as you can see by looking it up, of 7,000 people. Had one large charging station with 6 different chargers. So it could take care of 6 vehicles at the same time. I would encourage you to further look at that. I'll even offer an idea of a location. As you probably know, there are 3,700 state employees all within a 3-block area. We're talking Miro Street and Home Street. Either location would be a good one because they use state vehicle parking garage, on Home Street. And you've got the new building coming up right now. You've got the transportation garage on both sides of the transportation building. And I would encourage you to take just a look at that area as you move forward in charging stations. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I know that this building here up in the hill, that they do have some charging stations because they have some state vehicles which are electric.
Good. You know, this is a natural with, 3,700 employees that are coming to work every day. Plug in when you get there, plug in when you leave.
Right, and I'll check in with the state to see if that's something maybe they're considering for their new building.
It ought to be a natural.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Is there anyone else who'd like to make a comment? If not, well,
I'll
go
make
ahead.
one brief comment.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Tom.
My name's Tom Marshall. I live here in Frankfort. I'm a little concerned about KyMEA, maybe more than a little. This is kind of minor, but I think it's important. When I go to the KyMEA website, or at least what they allege to be their website, I see all this marketing information on there, but I don't see anything about their meetings. When are their meetings scheduled? Where are they going to be held? I've had past experience with other public entities or semi-public entities where they pretty much ignore the Open Meetings Act in terms of there's a requirement to have a regularly scheduled meeting. And if you're not going to have the regularly scheduled meeting, it's a special meeting. And if you're going to hold it somewhere else, you have to announce where it's going to be held and what time it's going to be held. And that information really needs to be publicly available. What better way to do that than on KyMEA's website? Since I saw that, they have at the bottom a opportunity for comment from those who visit their site. That what they're probably looking for is somebody who wants to do business. But I had a lengthy response about the fact that I couldn't find the information, and this has been months ago. And of course, they say at the bottom, we'll get right back with you. I have not heard a word. I'm sure they have my email address. They're pretty sophisticated. Even if I hadn't included the email address, they probably knew how to get back with me. So, if they, I think it's to their benefit if they would be a little more open to the public about where and when they're going to meet and what they're doing. If not, then there's going to be a perception that they're really not in the business for the consumers. They're in the business because they got a job and they're making good money, and they like things the way they are, and they really don't want to be bothered. Well, there are some of us that have a little bit of experience, especially in Frankfort, and since we're the largest member, we're blessed in that we have a number of people in this community who have experience either with utilities or finance or other areas where people are going to understand some of what's going on if they have enough information. So I would encourage you to contact KyMEA and ask them to remedy the situation. I've since heard that perhaps they host some of this information at another site. I've been told that it's something like the Kentucky School Boards Association site. Now, goodness gracious, who here is going to look at the Kentucky School Board Association site to see for information about KyMEA? Unless you're, unless you're on the inside and you know to look, I don't know how in the world you would find it. So that's what I have to say. The other thing I would say is, in all of these deliberations that go on, and I won't mention some of them, just keep in mind that the guiding principle, the North Star in utility law and in utility management is to do what is in the best interest of the ratepayers. There are other principles you're supposed to follow, such as avoid unnecessary cost for obvious reasons, provide safe and reliable service. Those are the biggies. So if you'll just keep that in mind, I know that it's not easy being on the plant board. It's not easy being a manager of the plant board. But I appreciate your efforts. I think that You all do a fine job, and good luck.
Thank you, Tom. We will bring those concerns up to KYMEA.
Yeah, thanks, because while you were talking, I was Googling. And, yeah, it's not, I couldn't find it either, so it isn't there.
Thank you.
We actually have it on our website. If you go to our website, go up to Services, click on Electric. There's a section that discusses the KYMEA board meetings, the time, and you can click to view the board meetings and see all of the agendas and past agendas. So,
Well, that's good to know, but it'd be nice if KYMEA would follow your example.
sure. So you can find that on our website.
Okay, great.
Thank you, David. I had forgotten about our website.
Yeah.
But let me ask you another question about his question, his suggestion. Wouldn't that site give you more information than just the meetings, minutes? You know, it would tell something about the organization, who's in it, the staff perhaps.
There may be a little bit out of that. I'm not sure.
But I mean,
Wow.
but that's what you're looking for more than just the meeting and the minutes. You're looking for what they're doing.
Yeah, I want to know when they're going to meet, so if I decide I want to show up,
Okay.
I can show up. I want to know what the agenda is, and I would like to know more than 2 days in advance. When somebody told me about this school board site, they actually showed it to me, and I did not see it on there until is my recollection, 2 or 3 days before the actual meeting.
Yeah, Steve, when I was looking, they've got lots of great information on their website. They just don't have anything about their meetings.
Okay.
They tell the other cities that are involved, what they're doing, the different power sources, et cetera. So it's a lot of good information. They just neglected to put about their meetings.
Thank you for bringing it up, Tom. So if there are no other comments, we'll go on to... Oh, we do. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Steve Mims. I'm just here to give my support to the proposal you have for the single tank design. I really have been reading about it, trying to understand it best, and I think looks like a good plan. I like it because of the least costs that is going into the thought of it. The safety of building a new tank that we need after 130 some years, I think that's very important. And the fiscal responsibility of looking after us ratepayers, I really think that's important. I've been here for 35 years, enjoyed the water system here, so I appreciate looking into the future, and especially since that same site has the infrastructure already there to put a new facility in there, and then hopefully if we do grow that we still have an area to build another tank. I think that's a really smart move. So just wanted to thank you for considering that.
Thank you for that input. So it's good to know that people are thinking about our hopes to replace the water system tank responsibly. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. Thank you. Let's see, we'll go on to departmental reports. And the first item is website customer comments. Did you have anything to say about those, Adam? Okay. Okay. I think we had a certain number of comments on our informational campaign about the reservoir. And do board members have any other comments on the points that we've received?
I'd like to say that I can support Mr. Mills in his assessment of the situation.
Okay, yep. Thought those are good comments. Okay. We'll go ahead with the cable report.
Good afternoon.
The cable report starts on page 95 of your board package. The first page of the report is the penetration numbers for each line of service. So far this year, we're looking pretty good, above budget on all items. I think we're just a little under on security. I think we're 10 shy there of meeting budget. We might be able to pick that up next couple of months. We'll see. The next page of the report is the trouble call report. We're down versus this time last year. It's the same thing, basically. Customer education and not FPB related, where we're changing out older equipment, upgrading customers to new equipment, or at least inform them of the issues they're having. On page 97 and 98 are the outages for the month. We had 3 outages, one in Huntington Wood, which was water damage. And then we had on Evergreen Road, we had an input failure on a new trunk amp we installed. And then in Hunter's Trace, we had a power supply. It's actually the input of the power supply that went bad. So if there's not any, try to answer any questions you might have.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Oh, Adam, I just would like to say thanks. I think a few months ago, I talked about a friend that was having the real internet problems. You all worked with him repeatedly. He is one happy camper.
He's our friend now, too.
He is, because y'all have spent enough time with him.
Yeah, he's, it was a tough problem. Our installation supervisor, Charles Burnett, he spent a lot of time with him. And, you know, we just had an open line of communications. When he had the problem, give us a call so we could look at it. And I think we finally have it resolved.
Yeah, you do, and he's very happy about that. So I wanted to thank you all, because it wasn't easy, and you all had to keep going back, but you did solve it, so that was great.
What was the cause that you
It was
eventually?
a piece of equipment that he had in his house that was actually causing the issue.
Oh, so interference?
Yeah, it was actually, I think they call it a Joey DirecTV. It's their wireless television. And so it actually transmit in the same frequency range as 5 gigahertz and things of that nature. And so it was actually interfering with his wireless in his house. And we had identified it, and then we did some testing, and then I think last week or about 2 weeks ago, we finally convinced him that that was the issue. So, and as far as I know, since then, he's not had no issue.
It's good. Thank
Our
you.
employee really did far beyond, because what happened in order for us to identify the problem is always a weekend. So our
Oh.
employee have to go there on a Saturday,
Yeah.
but it's a many times schedule. So I'm glad we did do that.
Yeah, our people really did above and beyond.
Good to know. Okay, good. Thank you, Adam. Okay, customer service.
Good evening, members of the board. The customer service reports are on page 99 to 101. Added 179 new accounts this month, a little over 4,700 calls answered, 1,400 plus walk-ins, and 6,700 plus cashier transactions. One thing I wanted to note for you, the Cycle 1 budget signups ended this last week, and we had 377 people participate in that.
Is that higher than the past?
It's about average. We added,
Okay.
I think, about 20 new accounts approximately. And then signups are still going on for the Cycle 2 customers. They have till May 24th to sign up if they're interested in our residential budget program.
Okay.
Be happy to answer any questions. Thank you all.
Thank you, Cassie. So, Scott.
Yes, Madam Chair and fellow board members. On page 103 of your board package, you will see our SADI report, which is right at 70 minutes for the month of April. Page 104, you will see your pie chart, which breaks down the percentages for each kind of type of outage we have. And then page 105 is the list of those percentages down to actual outage numbers, which we had a total of 16 outages for the month of April. And then page 106, you'll see the top 10 outages, which we had a total of 165 customers affected for the outages in April. Be happy to answer any questions.
Sounds good. Yeah, we had some windy storms.
None so far, so.
Well, back in April.
Actually, the one on Hickory and Browns Ferry, Kimberly, was the result of this little renegade storm that went to the north side of Franklin County, so it wasn't much.
Thank you. Okay, the SEPA report.
Yes, Madam Chair of the Board, if you look on page 107, you will see the SEPA information. Again, we have, next month will be the last SEPA report that we have with OMU selling our energy for us, then it will be under KyMEA. And I'm not exactly sure how we'll get the report. It'll be a credit on our bill, but we'll obviously get more information than that. So, but anyway, next month it will be the same type of report as you currently see. For the month of March, again, we're a couple of months behind when we get these reports. We lost about almost $11,000. And if you look on page, let's see, 108, you will see kind of laid out in a monthly chart as always. And 109 gives us our total 23-year summary of our SEPA for the whole time. Again, for the whole period, SEPA has been a benefit to the plant board of about a little over $10 million. So be happy to answer any questions.
I just have one. So now that we will be under KyMEA, will we still be sending the check to SEPA?
Yes, ma'am. We'll have a check we still send to the Department of Energy, and
Okay.
we'll get the credit. I think we've budgeted a net benefit to the company of $716,000 is what we have in the budget for next year. So that'll be a reduction. It goes against our power cost expense, so it's a reduction of power cost, netting benefit of about $700,000.
Okay, right, thanks.
So, safety.
Good evening. We did have one OSHA recordable, a water distribution employee smashed his finger and required stitches. And then we also had a vehicle accident where actually the safety truck was rear-ended, but there were no injuries and just very minor damage to both vehicles.
Sounds good. Okay. Water distribution.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. The water distribution report's on pages 113 through 115. We had 4 main breaks and 4 outages. Work continues on East Main. We're getting close to tying in down at the lower end of East Main for that section. We still have some services to switch over once it's put in service. We'll be making road repairs probably within the next 2 weeks. And then we'll move to the upper section of East Main, which will allow the sewer board to start on the lower section again. So that's going to be under construction probably until December. And then the other thing is we've started, I think they're going to start Monday or tomorrow maybe on the water fountain down at the farmer's market.
Oh, great.
And then as soon as we get that one in, we're going to go to work on East Frankfort Park. We're supposed to meet with Sean next week. We talked about some other locations. I know Ms. Hale had a question. I think they're going to try to do their spray ground at Dolly Graham Park, and he wanted to do that water fountain first before we looked at Fort Hill. And then we have another one that's going in at East Frankfort. And then I talked to Charlie Lewis at Lakeview, and we discussed maybe putting one in at the skate park that they're renovating because the water main's close and there's not really a source over there for water, so that those kids would have access, or whoever's over there, access along the walking trail to another water fountain. And we also discussed their dog park, but it's a little further away from the water main, but we've got some other locations.
So on those last ones that you mentioned, is that Capitol View Park or
Lakeview.
Lakeview? Okay.
Out there where they have the skateboard that they're renovating, where they have the skateboard park that they're renovating.
Okay. Okay. And I assume that all the ones that we currently have, they were reopened probably in April?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we had to order one part for a piece, but for one fountains, but other than that, we're good. They're in service.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's perfect for the farmer's market, because I know they they weren't happy. They felt like they needed to supply some kind of water for people down there, and they weren't really in favor of buying bottled water, and they're very much anticipating just having a drinking fountain.
Yep, it'll be right across from where they're at, so,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you. Water distribution. Oh, that was water distribution. Water treatment plant.
Good evening. The water treatment plant report is on page 117. We treated approximately 211 million gallons of water, averaging right at about 7 million gallons per day. Pumpage is still down a little bit, but again, we had another very rainy month, which tends to keep production down. Almost 6 inches of rain again in April. We're running close to 7 inches above normal for the year through the end of April. Because of that, we had plenty of flow in the river, over 6 billion gallons a day on average. We're hoping that with a little bit of heat coming in this weekend, we'll see a little bit of change in that. One thing I did want to point out is our 2018 water quality report is on our website. We have also started distributing that to our customers, either in their paper mail, paper bill that they get each month, or they will get a separate email notifying them. It's also attached to their electronic bill. This is a requirement by the Safe Drinking Water Act that we have this to our customers by July 1st. And so we're making every effort to do that. It's just a summary of our treatment and anything that we have found that is reportable or is just a natural contaminant in the water. So if you have any questions on that, I've got a couple copies if you want to see it before you leave. Other than that, be happy to answer anything you have.
So I assume in the water treatment report, there are no surprises at all?
No.
Okay. that's
Not
good.
at all. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if it would be
Yes.
all right, the NOC has been in operation for almost a month now, and Darren Rambo has some information to kind of give you an idea of how many calls they've received and how that's going. If that would
Great
be all
idea.
right. Yeah, we inadvertently left that off.
Oh, so it should have its own. Okay, good.
I think you just said it all.
Oh. Make it sound dramatic.
He's right. We just passed our month birthday, so to speak. So just looking at some quick numbers for the first 30 days, it looks like in the last month, the NOC has handled just over 3,000 phone calls. We've handled 501 events that we've entered into our system. And also our facility locate guys in the last 30 days have done 709 facility locates. So it's been a pretty busy month. So I just look for it to pick up maybe even more next month. So that's all. Thank you.
One question there, on the 3,000 calls, do they tend to be on certain timeframes?
Not necessarily. More at the end of the business day. A lot are during the business day, business calls. You know, people are out doing work. But also when people get home from work, it's busy up until 7 or 8 o'clock at night. People reach out, or they come home and find out they have an issue. They call.
Is that mainly with cable internet?
It's a variety of things.
Oh, okay.
It seems like we've had several water calls lately. And we can tease that out and provide it to you, but
Well, it might be interesting to think about what kind of charts, and maybe the other board members would have some ideas too, of what kind of data we could glean from the coverage that we're giving, and
yeah,
that would maybe
we
show
can break
us
it
some.
down that far as to what service and times of day or time slots, something like that, to see
Well,
see if there's a trend there.
Yeah, your point about people come home from work and that's when they call. I think in the past we were missing those.
Yeah,
Those
somewhat.
calls.
I'm sure it rolled over to our third-party provider.
Right.
I know one of the things that we've been helping with, oddly enough, some of the staff at night joke that they've become experts at reprogramming remote controls for people and helping them find the correct source on their TV. But that's great because that's exactly, that's what we want to do. It's simple tasks that we can help with, and they don't have to wait until the next day or.
Right, and I think that's where some of our customers have frustration and, well, maybe go to other providers.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
now
Well,
we're improving.
we obviously are happy to help with anything we can, and, you know, it's a lot of the phone calls are just that simple. You know, they might want a piece of information or want some simple task that we can do, and they don't have to call back the next business day or tomorrow. It's taken care of. So, you know, I think those are all pluses, little things that we take care of, but we're taking care of immediately after work or at 2 o'clock in the morning if they choose. So we're you know, pretty accessible.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. That concludes the departmental reports. We can go on to item 5.1, consider award bid invitation 1677 for underground cable to Anixter Incorporated in the amount of $22,200. And this is Jennifer Hellard to discuss with us.
Good evening. Staff prepared a bid invitation for one all underground cable. The invitation was sent to 6 vendors with 3 responses received. After reviewing all bids, staff recommends awarding to Anixter Incorporated in the amount of $22,200. The lowest bidder was $21,400, but their delivery time was 14 weeks. This will be used to replenish depleting inventory levels, so due to the low stock, the recommendation is to award to Anixter. They had a 7-day delivery time. And you can see the tab sheet on page 119.
Are there any questions or concerns concerning that? And do we have a motion to go ahead with Anixter?
I move we award bid invitation 1677 for underground cable to Anixter Inc. in the amount of $22,200.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is consider amendment to FPB job classification and compensation plan, list of authorized positions and organizational structure. Dianne to discuss. So this has probably been a major project for you for the last couple months, maybe.
Yes, it has. Thank you. In March of this year, the board approved changes to the plant board's organizational structure, and at that time we explained that additional changes would be recommended once the COO and CFO positions were in place. And today we're proposing further changes to optimize department coordination and to, most importantly, better serve our customers. There's a copy of the proposed organizational chart with the changes on page 121. Specifically, we're asking the board to consider the Network Operations Center Director and the Media Services and Marketing Departments report under the CFO. And we're proposing that the Broadband Network Administrators report to the COO. And on the organizational chart, those positions are in red boxes on the chart. That just represents that they are moving within the organization. We're also proposing 2 new positions reporting directly to the COO. Those are in yellow boxes: the Director of Water Operations position and the Chief Telecommunications Engineer positions. The Director of Water Operations will coordinate activities of the 3 departments in the Water Division: Water Engineering, Water Treatment, and Water Distribution. The Chief Telecommunications Engineer will manage cable telecommunications engineering and provide input into the design and development of the telecommunications infrastructure. The proposed job descriptions, the list of authorized positions, and organizational chart are in the detail pages for this board item. We're recommending the reclassification of 1 position, the Cable Telecommunications Superintendent, from grade 120 to grade 119. The position is currently vacant with an employee serving as the interim superintendent. Finally, we ask the board to consider eliminating 6 vacant positions, as those duties and responsibilities are or will be merged into other positions. Those are the Assistant Finance Director, the Broadband Network Supervisor, Cable Engineering and Construction Manager, Installation and Processing Manager, Production Assistant, and the Production Manager positions. There's a table in the board package that shows the pay grades, the salary ranges for the proposed new or revised positions. Funding for the new positions will be included in the upcoming budget. But overall, if you consider the total payroll impact, the 6 positions that will be eliminated will more than offset the new positions being proposed. Be happy to answer any questions.
Oh, I did have one thought on that. Do you know what this means our total head count is at this point?
I don't know what our
Okay.
total head count right now is about 190, I think. David, do you happen to know?
Yes, it's right around 200, full, with a couple of part-times, pushing above 200.
Okay.
2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
What's the added cost excluding the net, excluding the vacant positions that you're eliminating?
Well, the chief telecom engineer position, the starting salary for that position is $94,000. On the director of water operations position, there was a discussion that we anticipate that we'll have internal candidates for that position, and that there's a possibility that the person that is selected would handle their current responsibilities and the director of water operations, kind of serve as a coordinator.
I think you've answered my second question. Are any of these positions vacant? So one of them is vacant, at least one of them. One of the new positions.
Both.
Both are
Both are
vacant,
vacant.
yes.
And that, one of my concerns, but we discussed it in the agenda meeting, was that the vacant positions, or the positions we're eliminating are already vacant. We aren't losing any employees, or you know.
That's correct.
So, if there's no other discussion, do we have an amendment to approve the FPB job, or can we have a motion to approve the FPB job classification compensation plan and list of authorized positions, and the changes to the organizational structure?
I move we approve the amendment to the FPB job classification and compensation plan.
Second.
Okay, move in second. All in favor of the changes as proposed by staff?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. Okay. Number 5, thank you, Diane. Item 5.3, consider approving a request for public hearing regarding changes to the water line extension cost recovery policy. And David Billings to explain this.
The board will recall somewhere around 2011, the board quit doing refunds to developers, and at that time, the board adopted a cost recovery methodology. It was, to the best of my knowledge, very similar to the sewer department's, if not a carbon copy of the sewer department's cost recovery program. Through the years, we've had one person apply for it, and we've learned that it's almost impossible to manage. So we went, Hance and I got together, and we started looking at the requirements of the statutes, and we've come up with a proposed waterline cost recovery that we would like to have a public hearing for. So we're asking the board to approve notice for public hearing on June the 4th. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have at this time.
So if board members aren't aware, that's one of the days that we have set aside to have a budget meeting, so it ties into that same meeting date. And so are there any questions or discussion concerning changing this? If not, is there a motion?
I move we approve The request for public hearing regarding changes to the water on extension cost recovery policy.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried. Thank you, David. The next item, 5.4, consider approval of amendment number 7 between Strand Associates Incorporated and FEWPB to extend monitoring programs for the existing reservoir by providing up to 5 condition assessments for a sum of not to exceed $58,100. And David, please.
We established a monitoring program following the 2013 and 14 interim repairs project. Every year, our consultant comes in and inspects the reservoir. In the spring and following every inspection, we've actually made repairs that they've recommended. The last assessment occurred in 2018. Given the condition of the reservoir and the continued deterioration that we see, we also anticipate repairs moving forward, but we also will recommend that we pick up the monitoring program again. So as a matter of course, we asked Strand to develop a scope of work for continuing the program for up to 5 years. Our 5-year budget includes $25,000 per year, or $125,000 total for the 5-year period for annual inspections and point repairs. I did want to point out that this is a time and expenses not to exceed $58,000. So if we end up doing the program for 2 years, they'll just charge for that. It amounts to about $12,000 a year. So if we do it for 1 year, $12,000. If we do it for 3 years, it's 36. So it's not to exceed the 5-year period.
Yeah, and I do think we should do this. I think it's important to make sure that our 134-year-old reservoir remains as intact as possible, but I also realize that since we haven't been able to move forward with replacing the reservoir, that we're essentially spending money that we wouldn't have to spend. And it's unfortunate that we're just not able to move forward on the reservoir at this point. But I do think this is a reasonable expense.
It's a responsible expense.
That's right. But unfortunate. So, do we have a motion to go ahead and approve this contract?
I'll make a motion that we approve amendment number 7 between Strand Associates and FEWPB to extend monitoring program for the existing reservoir by providing up to 5 condition assessments for the sum not to exceed $58,100. Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
David. Consider a request for public hearing to be held on June 4th, 2019 at 5 o'clock at FPB's Administration Building, 151 Flynn Avenue, Frankfort, Kentucky, regarding lowering or eliminating service reconnect charges on cable TV, internet, and telephone service. David Denton to discuss.
Yes, Madam Chair, staff is asking for a public hearing to consider lowering and eliminating reconnection charges. I'd like to walk through those. Currently, cable TV, up to 3 to 5 business days for a reconnection. Currently, the fee is $64. Proposed reconnection fee would be $32. That's a 50% reduction. For cable TV, same day, currently there's an $81 reconnection fee. Proposing to bring that down to $50. That's a 38% reduction. Cable modem internet, proposing, well, today it's a $64 reconnect fee. Proposing to eliminate that fee. For telephone, 3 to 5 business days, currently a $64 reconnection fee, proposing to eliminate that fee. And telephone, same day, currently $81, looking to reduce that to $50. That's a 38% reduction as well. So we'd just like to consider this, if the board would be willing to hold a public hearing and walk down the road of changing these fees.
I think it's excellent that we're able to do this and would benefit our customers, and especially in our competitive area of cable internet, to be able to reduce costs directly to customers.
I move we request a public hearing to be held on June 4th, 2019 at 5 p.m. at FPB's Administration Building at 151 Flynn Avenue, Frankfort, Kentucky, regarding lowering or eliminating service reconnect charges on cable TV, internet, and telephone service.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
That'll be very positive for customers and for our visibility. 5.6, consider request for public hearing to be held June 4th, 2019 regarding adjustments to cable advertising rate card maximum rates. Scott Stafford to explain this to us.
Last year, the board approved 2 maximum rates for cable advertising, a standard rate and a political rate. Since then, our back-end service partners at ViaMedia expressed a concern that a higher rate, a higher maximum rate might be needed to prevent an inventory shortage during heavy political seasons. Basically, if our rates are too low, national agencies can swallow up our avails at the non-preemptible rate, which means all our local candidates and businesses would be boxed out or bumped off the schedule because the non-preemptibles have to run regardless. So if anybody's in the way, those have to go. And the majority of our local candidates run at preemptible rates. By extension, that also means we potentially leave revenue on the table from the national advertisers. During last fall's political window, I estimate we may have drawn an extra $23,000 if we'd been able to use the rates that they suggested. I'd also stress that regardless of our maximum rate, there will always be affordable space across the cable system for advertising for all of our candidates and businesses. Counting all the day parts across all 50 of our insertable networks, we have 250 buckets that they can advertise on, and only 9 of those out of 250 ever hit our current maximum rate. So we're requesting that the board approve a public hearing notice for adjustments to the cable advertising rate card.
And when you mention inventory, you mean time slots?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, we call them avails on. So it's not just an entire time slot, but it avails within that time slot, and yeah.
Sounds good. Do we have a motion or a discussion?
Make a motion to approve request for public hearing to be held June 4th, 2019 regarding adjustments to the cable advertising rate card, specifically the maximum rate for political candidates.
And a motion and second. With no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay, informational items. I think we've covered everything. General manager comments?
Well, on the KyMEA meeting, they always hold, I would say, they do have a posting, they have a public meeting, and they have a notice, probably most likely, either on other website they mentioned or their front door. They do follow state open meeting law clearly, correct? Yeah, that's what I will assume, so. And we will encourage their management to put on that meeting on their own website. We will try to do that even next meeting. But the public meeting they had is open to public, except when they have a closing section on their lawsuit or discussing their contract, potential contract. But beyond that, they do have hold public meeting, at least the last 6 months I was there, my understanding, that's the truth. But I think it's correct, they should have put in as a convenient location as possible for anyone interested in their meeting. They encourage everybody to attend their meeting. I agree 100% with that. We will try the best we can, encourage management to do their part.
You might mention the annual meeting next week.
Yes, we do have their annual meeting tomorrow, start 9:30 in their Louisville office. If anyone interested, we have it's a public meeting. It's They have a schedule, program, we have all the information on that. David, did we post in our website too, on their meeting? Oh, their own website. I forgot.
We just have the regular meeting. There's the,
Okay.
annual meeting is not up there on our website.
Okay, but we have those information, if anyone interested, make sure we can try to, thank you, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Old and new business, do we have anything on that topic? Okay, we'll go ahead, request permission to have chair call a closed session. Move to call a closed session pursuant to KRS 61.8101C to discuss pending litigation regarding the reservoir construction.
So moved.
We have a second and move. We'll now go into a closed session.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.